So, how does a creation story that accounts for only 6,000 years now claim to be accurate when the Earth, according to research, clearly dates over billions of years ago? Well, there is an explanation to this in Genesis 1. If you look at Genesis chapter 1, from verse 1 to 2, you see that in verse 1 it says that in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. Then in verse 2, it goes on to say that, and the earth was in chaos. So between verse 1 and verse 2, we can clearly see that something happened. The stories in Revelation about the fall of Lucifer probably accounts for this. When Lucifer rebelled against God and God cast him down to the earth. This clearly happens before Adam and Eve were created, right? There is clearly a time lapse between Genesis 1 verse 1 and Genesis 1 verse 2. We don't know how long that is, but that accounts for a bit of the time that was lost in between the creation story. Two, we also see that when the Bible was recording days, we see that the idea of 24 hours was not yet a thing, because 24 hours only became a thing on the third day of creation. So, what did the Bible mean by days when it was recounting the creation story? The Bible also says that a day is like 1,000 years before the Lord, and 1,000 years is like a day, and that the Lord is not slow to his promises. The nature of God helps us to know that God is a God of process. He doesn't do magic, He works miracles. That is, every natural thing works together for a supernatural purpose. And that is who God is by nature. He has the power to do everything. But God, by principle, is a God of process. So a day before the Lord is the time that it takes for each phase of creation to be complete. So when he says that let there be light, the period that it requires for light to form together is what God calls a day. When he says that let the land come out of the sea, the period that it requires for the land to completely rise from the sea is what he calls a day. When he says that let creatures be formed in the sea, they didn't just happen instantly. It was a process. The amount of years it took was not recorded, but all of that is what God called a day. Science records that the first creations were formed in the sea, right? And it was only after sea creatures were formed that the first set of land animals emerged. They emerged from the sea and decided to evolve and evolve until we had, all the different animals that we have currently.